Hello, everyone. Welcome, episode 22 of Sorare Thursday Club. Today, we're discussing the latest XP announcements and how this impacts your strategy. We're also going to go through a gallery rebuild, looking at the new XP and what that means. As always, I'm joined to my left on the Sorare Mamba. Ricky, how are we doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm feeling 22. Do you like my singing?
It's a lucky number, isn't it?
Yeah.
And below me, Dornado, how are we?
I'm good, mate. You're such a Taylor Swift super fan, aren't you, Rick? You just absolutely love her.
I have got tickets, me and Tay, quite close, me and the Swifties.
Stand us up for Euros next year for Taylor Swift. And how does Sorare community feel about that?
It sounds like a lovely June double, if you ask me. Trip to Germany and a Taylor Swift concert. Whoa, cracking. If Carlsberg did June's.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure they do Taylor Swift.
Oh, I think most of us would.
Anyway, let's move on. So, before we get into the main section of the show, as always, the ramble. There's a couple of things that have happened today and also happening this week. We're going to start on the latest announcements or the latest drop, which was caps. Ricky, I think you got stuck into the old cap drop today, didn't you?
Oh, you know it. You know it's been a dream of mine for as long as history entails for me to have a Sorare cap. I haven't been able to get one. I was banking on Sorare Sevens this weekend that we would have to win the competition so we could get a Sorare hat each. Fortunately, they did a drop today, 15,000 coins for a hat. I think it lasted about 3 minutes. And I managed to get in and bag myself one, which I am over the moon about. No longer will I have to wear this green, crusty old fella on my head. In a few weeks' time, I'll be emblazoned with the Sorare logo, looking fresh as you like. So my Sorare cap will be coming to a stream near you soon. Quite a bold price, I think, 15,000 coins, considering a signed shirt was 35 and wasn't a normal shirt 20 or 25. So it is a fair chunk of money, but as I've got 85,000 coins knocking around because I couldn't win any of the other drops, I was straight in. And it takes the pressure off us at Sorare Sevens. We can just get drunk instead. Don't have to worry about winning anymore because I've already got the cap.
It's not totally true, is it? Because some of our team need to gain that cap. And John,
you did well in a Sorare cap-related competition. It's been a while.
I haven't won an E for about 3 months, and I'm not going to win anything this midweek. So, yeah, a cap. We'll take what we can get.
Johnny, I saw you got hold of your own version of a Sorare cap.
Yeah,
the old drop.
As worn on stream last week. I didn't go for a cap this time, as I bought a shirt for the vast majority of my coins last time. So I've saved my coins just in case I have to spend them on a physio or a facilities sort of area for my team. But yeah, I'm glad to see Rick's already got one. I did do a post of my cap on one of the Sorare tweets, and I got like 50 likes on it. It's so popular. For some reason, people seem to like that Blue Peter mocked up cap that I made in about 2 minutes a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, I'll definitely be going for a cap in the future once I've got a bit more coins.
So do we reckon given the caps were 15k, and I think you said the shirts were what, 20, 25, 35, whatever?
35
right?
For a signed one, yeah.
So do you reckon that means in the future the shirts are going to be considerably more coins? So that feels very close for a cap to a jersey, right?
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I guess it's difficult because like they don't want to the market with caps, do they? They want to keep it relatively. Oh, what's going on here?
Still here, mate. No, you're not. I think what you were saying was you don't want to flood the market with caps. They want to keep it relatively low and in demand.
Oh yeah, well lit bread. Yeah, well, I think they've been well sought after, aren't they? They're like the cult thing that people want in from Sorare, so that there's not a lot else in the shop. So when they can just chuck a single thing out, sells out in 3 minutes, the demand's going to be there, isn't it? I think down the line, they might have to come up with like a sensible price structure. But that will have to fit around what you've got to spend on all these new gamification updates as well. So yeah, I think at the moment,
quite smart, isn't it? For like the PR though, like, so because they kind of go viral, and you look at it like objectively, and it's just a plain cap with a Sorare label on, which you could term as pretty dull. But yeah, we all want one, don't we?
I guess this means what the hoodies. They said the hoodies are coming soon as well.
Yeah.
25.
I actually want a hoodie.
25k. It's got to be more than a hat.
But someone like me, right? So I want them, but then we're going to talk about in a minute. That new XP that you can gain, that now matters playing the cap modes. I'd rather spend it on those 3 boosts and get an extra 1.5%, just because I need it in order to compete. And that's a considerable chunk on my coins. It's probably different for you because you're earning more coins on the weekly.
Yeah, see, I don't really. Now we've been a week on, I know we'll get into this. I don't really care about any of these bonus things like that. I'd rather have a hoodie and a cap. We'll get into it when we talk about that. But yeah, I'd rather have some merch for me.
I'm very excited to hear your input to this XP that's upcoming.
Well, would you rather have a hoodie or some penis cream for Carlos Gil, as PSU fans put it earlier in the week?
Penis cream all day.
Yeah. There you go. That's cap news.
Welcome back, mate.
Sorry about that. My I don't know what happened to my internet there, but it just completely freaked out and cut me off. So, but yeah, caps are cool. Is that what we were saying?
Pretty much, yeah. You've nailed it.
Not as cool as this one, though. Yeah.
Not as cool as that one.
Yeah.
And not as cool as caps that are won at Sorare Sevens, which is our next point of the ramble. This week, up and coming, Saturday, nonetheless. Shall we get up our team quickly? Has anyone got a little? I
do. Yep, I have it up.
Of the team going. So I feel like we've been counting down the days to this.
Yeah, it's very exciting, isn't it? They did a little series of tweets yesterday. Here's our gloriously winning team. We've got Swiss Mafia, the Sorare Mamba, Dornado, Royal Livy, Ashwin, Wilco, Kev, Indo, Crowther, and Johnny Big Rockets, who I was looking forward to meeting Johnny Big Rockets just because I liked his name. But he pulled out within about 10 seconds of us announcing he was in the team. So
as soon as he saw our names.
As soon as he saw our names, he was out. So I think the Sorare Sevens lads on Discord were saying they've got another couple of lads that are keen to get involved. So hopefully we'll get one of those, I'd imagine.
Johnny Big Rockets has got a very nice gallery as well. He was full of some very nice super rares. And
he did have some big time players on his squad. But yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? Can't wait for it. I've been looking forward to it for a while now.
They've done a hell of a job. I think they've done a really good job at setting up. Like, considering, again, it's like a group of guys like us essentially have thought, right, got an idea, pinged it out to community. They've got, a proper football pitch for it all, proper venue. Like, yeah, I think it's going to be great. I'm really excited.
I'll be honest, it's just made me want to organise one as well, like, or for us to do one in Bristol or something, like, at some point. I don't know.
I have had an idea, actually.
Yeah, it might be a bit too, big.
Golf, West Berkshire Golf Club.
Yeah, I was literally having this exact thought as well. Because there's got to be a lot of Sorare lads that play golf.
Yeah. We'll pick that one up offline anyway, before I commit anyone to that.
I think we need to be a bit more famous first. No, I think we got Mbappe, which is, a great captain to get, especially now he's not going to Saudi Arabia, so everyone on Sorare can still appreciate him. So yeah, if your mascot's anything to go by, I think we've got a strong chance, right? Yeah.
So we've got Mbappe, Vanaken, Koku, Team Gil, and Team Messi. I mean, as far as Sorare goats go, that's probably the best 5, right?
Who do you think is the biggest threat? I thought Harry Trace was going to be on there, but I don't think he is he?
Is that Harry Trace? Harry .is? Don't know.
He's not going, I don't believe.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, I like to say, what I would like to say is it's not about the winning, it's just go have a good time, but I am desperate to win, so
that team looks like, name-wise, Big Flip, Trust Drift, Swifty, Connor Kebab.
Connor Kebab sounds like it should be on our team.
Star open bracket 10 AC space WS. These sound like they could be some street ballers. They could take us out.
Quinny's there as well. Look forward to seeing Quinny.
Yeah. So exciting times. I'm looking forward to chatting.
As long as there's some good drinkers there, that's all that really matters, eh?
I'm looking forward to chatting some Sorare afterwards and have a few beers. It's not often you are in a room full of JPEG nerds, is it, that you can talk about? We're stuck with basically us three. So it's nice to break out, speak to some other people.
There's enough nerdiness between us three, to be honest.
Yeah. We've got Kevin Doe coming over from Holland to join us on our team, and then Crowther, who became a little bit famous on the comments of this show a few weeks ago for digging me out.
Off. Yeah.
I like that guy a lot already.
Yeah. I liked it too, to be fair. I liked it too. We should get him on the show. Let's get him on the show.
Right. So moving on. Next up, last week, was it even last week? Yeah, it was last week. You had all the updates, didn't we, just for the show? One element of that was the upgrade or update in not in scoring, but in XP, and Thresh or Cap 240 in terms of now having to hit 300 as opposed to 250 for the Thresh, which I think probably it's fair to say a core group on the Sorare rely on that or focus on that. So it's probably going to be quite a shift in terms of like strategy potentially. And I've seen lots of people write different things online about kind of their interpretation of it, what it means, if it's better, if it's worse, people leaving because of it, all sorts. So I spent a bit of time this week having a look at it from my perspective because I focus on Cap 240, and also I think it's quite good for new joiners potentially. That once they kind of shift up from those initial tournaments, progression, even if it's at limited level. So yeah, I've had a little look and I've put something together. I want to pitch it to you boys and see if you're thinking along the same lines as me, or if you've got any other ideas in terms of strategizing based on these new updates. So if I flick this up on screen, right, anyway, here it is, boom, magic. Up on screen, you can see my interpretation of Cap 240 with the new changes and how I'm tracking it. So I'll chuck this in the link if anyone else wants to steal my spreadsheet. Everyone's probably got their own way of doing it. But the key bit being the new changes, you've got your main bonuses, which are your new card bonus, which entitles you to 5%, your XP bonus, so the amount you've trained your card, your captain, which is 4% if you spread it across a team of 5, and then your collection bonus, which is based on how many players you collect over your collection. You've also got the addition of fitness now, where everyone starts on 10, but we don't know yet how quick that goes up or down. So I've left it at 10 from the beginning. We can't make any guesses or interpretations on it, and that may change how everything goes. But regardless, that's what we're going to work with. And then the boost, right? So boosts, which are, you can buy them on the store, and you can buy up to 3 boosts per player, which gives you 0.5%. So again, up to 1.5% boost you can gain. So what we now know is in order to get from 250 to 300, you need an extra 50 points, which is 20% increase. So what I've done is I've looked at it and gone, right, okay, well, based on that, we know that any player over 20% gain is benefiting in Cap 240. So the only challenge you have with this is obviously new card bonuses come in to play in September, which I think are going to screw a lot of people over. And I've done like a little example here at the top, looking actually what it looks like. And I know if I were to play Cap 240 now with a general team, I'm going to hit ETH. Pretty much any time I would normally hit 250 with my team, I'm probably going to hit 305. So actually, I'm actually better off with the changes right now. And this is I've messed around with a few different teams, and each time it works out. Generally speaking, I'm either the same or better off. So my feeling is actually we benefit from it in the short term. However, if Sorare release all their cards in September, instantly I'm on the back foot. I'm fucked. So I'm suddenly having to catch up and my team that would have hit 300, again with extra 10%, my team that typically would hit 300 would now hit 287, or 305 will now hit 287. So actually, it's harder as of September if you've bought the new cards to earn Thresh, but it's not that hard, because if I was typically hitting 265, which, boys, can you hit 265 fairly regularly on the I'm guessing on the 240, right?
Yeah.
Can't win fucking ETH to save my life, mate.
Maybe you're the wrong person to ask here, Rick. But from my experience, I'm targeting, but I'm normally hitting 235 to about 260, 270, 280, like on an average week. So I think, generally speaking, it's going to be easier before September, for the first few games. When they release all your cards, it's going to be tougher, but it's still going to be very doable. And then as the season goes on, go on.
I'll just make a point. It's not when the new season cards are out. It's the first game of the season that the card bonus goes, not when they release the new team cards.
Serious?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know
New
that.
season bonuses will now expire as soon as the first game week opens, featuring the opening domestic league fixture. For example, Premier League bonuses expire the first game week featuring Premier League fixtures starts. So 3 weeks' time.
Then it's even worse. So in theory, we can look at this and go, right, if they allowed us to use our cards without deducting that, we'd be better off. But the reality is we are worse off right now by about, generally speaking, 10. For me, it's 12 here, but by about 10 points. But again, if you're hitting 260 or can hit 260 plus, don't moan, because you should be still hitting ETH. So from my perspective, and I'd be interested to hear you boys, what I didn't want to do is go rattle through this whole spreadsheet and bore everyone to tears, which I've probably already achieved anyway. But from my perspective, it's still very doable to hit ETH, like both and again, I focus on rare, but I'll probably build a team for Limited to do it. And someone thinking about it, but then going, I'm not sure now because of all these new changes and it's getting complicated, which I get to a point. But honestly, if you spend like 10 minutes going through it, it's not that difficult. And for me, it's a fun aspect. You can actually make it easier, because you can win. If you were to spend your coins on boosts, then you can actually gain. And if you do your collections and build collections, you can gain again. And then XP comes over time through training, which gives something else. So I actually think it adds an element to it. And those who plan, I think, will gain from it. And those who can't be asked will get lucky every now and then, and probably won't other times. What do you reckon, lads?
I've got 3 points I'd like to raise. The first one is that's a fucking lovely little spreadsheet, mate. Well done. I really like it. I like all the colours. I mean, you've obviously had a very busy week doing your
working really hard, mate.
Yeah, working really hard on your real job. Second one is, I think this also proves how many issues people are having with these updates, is that amount of work you've put into that, people don't want to have to do that a lot of the time. It's not very conducive what they've done to the general football fan. I don't think it's good for people that like Football Manager, like the sort of nitty gritty stats of things. But for maybe that's what that new sort of like head to head game is that's going to be on the app. It's a bit more like for the general football fan. And the third point is, if you go to the final column of your spreadsheet there, Jess.
Yeah, I've just shut it, mate. So go on, just talk me through it.
Okay, well, it's not a very serious point. It's just that they all say keep and don't sell. Surely they should all say sell, because you always sell all your cards. I'm interested to see that spreadsheet looks like in about 6 weeks' time.
This is true. So to add context to what that meant, it's, again, because I didn't want to go from a whole spreadsheet and take up the whole pod. I'm referring to keep if I believe they'll hit cap 240 based on their current cap versus the XP that they'll gain at that point. Hold if they're a backup, or are you going to build up the XP, and sell if they're not hitting any of that, which you got Rufus on, which I'm going to do anyway. As you say, probably most of them. So you are correct. I cannot argue. Time and time again, your point is proven.
It was only a silly point, but like seriously, you've got a lot of good high value good players in your squad at the moment. Like, how many of them do you realistically think you'll be able to even fit into your cap 240 team? Like, that's another point, is that you're still having to use the same players you used before. I mean, it shouldn't make too much of a difference, but it just really encourages you to really focus on those percentage powers now, doesn't it? Like, you need to be concentrated. Like, it'd be really useful if they did release those figures on how much your fitness will drop, whether it'll be like 1% a week or 1% every time you play them, or like whether it'll be 1% every few games. I don't know. Like, that's really important to know.
It can make a huge difference. Like, I was 12 points off. Imagine if I lose like 5 on top of that, or 8. That's a lot, isn't it? 20 points to game.
It's not necessarily a lot, but that's a definite loss for each player. So that's 5% on your entire team. So if you're getting like 250, that is like, a fair amount of points, like, to believe. And you know how much just a small amount of points makes such a difference now with the amount of people doing it. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Rick? Spreadsheets.
I think there's probably a bit too much overreaction in both directions about the announcement. When you everyone breaks it all down and puts it everywhere, I don't think there's too much difference. You can pitch it as slightly harder, slightly easier, whatever. I don't think it makes too much of a difference, and I don't think it will change the way too many people play the game. Obviously, it is dependent on maybe if your fitness, you lose 2% every time they play, and you go up 1% every game week they miss. Maybe once you start getting down to 3%, then it's a serious thing. But I just think small amount of gamification is okay and to be expected because they're looking for revenue streams. I just hope that it's not all too time consuming to do all the penis cream stuff that you have to do. Like, if it's a nice extra for people that want to spend an extra 10 minutes, then fine. I'm quite happy to roll out a 7-8% fitness player. It's not really going to bother me or, change the way I play the game at all. Maybe if you have a really small gallery where you've really focused on like 8 rare cards for the whole of the European season, then it could be quite big when they announce it later next month. I think they said in August. But I'm personally, like, I take the game seriously and I'm on it a lot, but not to the extent where I worry about like by having the best percentage player or like boosting players or any of that. I've never used a boost. I forgot that we even had them. So I think maybe when you get an announcement like this, there is a serious like early reaction, and then we all die down and we forget that every time they release something, we all forget about it, and it's just part of the background after a while. But that was a very nice spreadsheet you made. So congratulations on that.
I'll post it. I'll post it online so everyone can steal it if they like and criticize it if they fancy. But so to your point exactly there, Rick, that's why I like it, because you have massive edge on me, for example, because your depth of gallery, your ability to then sell and get someone in, trade and get someone in, multiple teams, etc., and collection bonuses because you've got that depth. So for someone like me trying to catch up on that edge, having a play around with bonuses, trying to be tactical in terms of like getting that extra 1 or 2% per player is my way of playing catch up to a point. And there'll be people that are way better at it than me, especially those smaller galleries. So I think it's a really good addition. But again, it's speculation until we know what that fitness XP is and actually see it in action, which would be quite good fun.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think it is like that whole 30% bonus. I think for some people who absolutely love stats crunching and trying to get minuscule advantages, it can be fun. And like, I've got, say, my San Jose collections all max percent, and you could end up with some really big percent totals. And for some people, it will add a layer to the game. For some people, it'll be an annoyance that they can't be asked to deal with. And for some people like me, we probably won't care and won't, actively do anything around it. But I think my point is I don't mind a bit of gamification, but when it gets too far, I don't want to see too much more. The Sorare Mega example gets put around a lot. I don't want to be buying Predators for my players and strapping on a new T-shirt to them. And likewise,
I just stopped playing. Did you play? I got sick of it.
I occasionally just whack in like quick click teams. I never put any spits on them or think about it. And then again, I don't play Football Manager anymore because I couldn't be bothered with the level of complexity. So I wouldn't want, the complexity level here required to give yourself like a proper competitive chance to go too high. But for where it is at the moment and with what's coming in, from what we know, I'm okay with it so far. This is before I find out I've got to spend 50,000 coins on like a physio center and all that stuff. But yeah, for now.
Fair point. Right. So moving on, I guess, and on the theme potentially of Cap 240 and the changes and then potentially re-strategizing, rebuilding. We've had someone reach out who is Sam G, who is currently going through that exact process. It was actually pre-updates, but I would argue anyone in a position of thinking about a gallery rebuild or just entering, maybe now is the best time because everyone's to a point on a level playing field where we're all finding out the impact of the changes. If I again, we'll show in a minute, if I had this gallery, I'd probably be considering the rebuild and taking advantage of the changes. So, anyway, Sam G, who's from the community, has reached out. He has, coming up on screen, this gallery that you see in front of you right now. So, currently valued at £103, 0.13 ETH. He has been on the platform since last year, so that's March 2022. His Pavard, won the most rewards. He's won 4 awards out of that, and his win percentage is 2.23. So he's got, was it 9 cards? I think we counted up, maybe 8 or 9 cards. Yeah. Smith Rowe, Cucurella, Diaz, Pavard, Ramiro, Barella, Tomori, and Soler. Plus obviously his commons. So, I mean, the first thing that sticks out there is he's gone straight in for champion limited level and pretty well-known players across Europe. So the reason why Sam sort of contacted us, or we spoke with Sam in the first place, is he's got to the point where he kind of has fallen out of love almost with the platform, was trying to decide whether to sell up and just take the losses or whether to restructure and continue. So I had a little look at his gallery and it looks like he's bought in at a kind of a high time and so has taken a considerable hit on his overall value of gallery. I think it's probably near, off the top of my head, near the 1K mark, and now we're looking at a value of about 188, which 183, which is not unfamiliar to a lot of people. We've got friends that have gone through the same sort of thing. His goal is to get back to 0% net deposit. So let's say a 1K target for gallery value, I suppose. And then again, there's that opportunity to either play on or sell. He said that he likes playing the game, so wants to be able to continue playing, I guess, the SO5 element and the dopamine buzz of wins. He's an Arsenal fan. He likes the Premier League and the main leagues, as we can see by his gallery. Wants to avoid the leagues that he doesn't know. Going to have to focus on limited. We spoke about this earlier offline. There's no way with that budget, unless he's trading, he can consider the rares, really. And then he would consider trading, but really wants to play. So I think we're going to have to focus on the play element. His enjoyment out of the platform comes from watching his players do well. So knowing that, my first feeling would be the market may never recover. So prices may not rise to where they were before if he got in at a bad time. So it may ultimately mean taking that hit rather than sitting and waiting too long, or making your gallery or money work for you. Lads, I've kind of rattled on a little bit, but that's kind of set the context. What's your kind of initial thoughts here in that context, and also looking at what he's currently got? What would you do in that scenario, top line, before we kind of dig a bit deeper?
I think he should sell his Fukumori common card for £1,000. And then
a strong tactic.
Yeah, and then cash out. No, I think, I always say to people that are joining to try and focus on putting together a strong Cap 240 team, to try and just keep banking that ETH every week. bank maybe a couple of weeks in a row, and you can get another player with that, a solid player. Just keep progressing on that level. But he's obviously got eight pretty big name players here. So if he was to do that, he probably would need to sell and get sort of maybe sell one and buy 3 solid players to put in a cap team. He's got a pretty strong all-star team there. Luis Diaz obviously has been injured. He's come back at the end of last season and done well. But there's a fair amount of good players in Liverpool, isn't it, at the moment? So, and then
does he stay or go? Because he's linked to Saudi, isn't he? Quite heavily.
No, he won't go. They've come out and said there's no chance in hell. And then Pavard's getting linked with Man City, isn't he? With a swap with Walker. He's got some good players there, so it might be worth just trying to put together an all-star team potentially, rather than trying to, mess around trying to sell and buy sort of more players that aren't necessarily as good, but just to sort of put in a cap 240 team. It's a tough one. It's a real tough one because we haven't really done any analysis on a gallery with only 8 cards in, have we? We've done one which had a lot more cards in, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Rick?
Well, obviously, always my initial thought is, can you get to cap 240 rare?
Yeah, okay.
It's not really an option here because you can't even afford a goalie if you sold up. With the changes in mind that have just been made, and if this fitness boost is a serious thing, blah, 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 8 cards isn't going to be enough. So I am definitely selling some parts of these. The first aim has to be 240 as much as possible. So I'd want a midweek team. So I'd be looking at European teams, probably in the Europa or the Conference League, so I can try and maximize that $5 twice a week. I'd be looking to make 220 teams constantly with common goalkeepers. But for that, we need more cards. So I see Alex Romero is, his floor price is still pretty tidy there. If you're looking at fun, normally I'd also say, let's go pick up Austrian League or Croatian League or League 2, Division 2 teams. But if he is interested in, the Premiership and, the enjoyment of watching the Premier League and things, you could sell Alex Romero there. Was it 0.37? 0.037, obviously. You could pick up Fabianski is 0.005. He either plays in midweeks or the weekends for West Ham, 0.005. You can get Neto 0.009. You can Sam Johnson is 0.12. There's a lot of cheap options here where you could pick up a midweek West Ham keeper. You could probably get 3 goalies out of there. I'm just looking at the Premiership one, thinking of what's the most fun thing for someone like this to go to and spread out that goalkeeper risk. Getting 3 or 4 goalies you can get from the Premiership for what that one goalie costs there. Aim 1 at midweek, and then allow yourself an option for your 240 team. You don't need one for 220 most of the time. So then maybe you can start aiming towards 3 teams at 220, 240, and then an all-star or a 270. And then looking at the other players we've got there, I don't want anyone that's a risk when I've got such a small gallery. So someone like Cucurella, Smith Rowe, I know he's an Arsenal fan, but, even Luis Diaz is a fair price there, considering Liverpool got a lot of rotation options up front and you're not entirely sure what their front 3 is going to be. Pavard and Tomori and Barella are going to start, pretty much every game. They're going to give you midweek utility as well, and fairly good scorers as well. I got Pavard myself and he's really good for me last year. So I don't mind, holding those 3 per se. And then bulking, I'd probably keep those 3 and I'd definitely be selling the goalie and getting a couple more in. I know this is really heavily focused on quality, but we need to be winning $5 constantly, which means we need options. So we need 2 teams a week. So we need more than 1 goalie. Solare, I'm not really sure what his deal is at the moment.
He's getting to be patient with him, don't you? I think he's probably one to hold if you got a bigger gallery.
I got 2 of his rares and a limited of him. He's gone from being the main man in Valencia to being absolutely lambasted in PSG, like most players.
Water boy.
They absolutely hate him. All the fans, like, I
haven't followed him.
I'm constantly like searching him. He's getting linked with a few little transfer rumors. It might be worth just keeping him because he's such low value at the moment. You could definitely probably double your money on him. But I think Ricky makes a very good point about the keeper. Like, that's like, keepers are such a risk anyway, because their whole points scoring is basically dependent on them getting a clean sheet, really, with the way that the scoring is. So you might as well get a keeper for half that price, if not less than half the price this guy's selling for, and roll the dice on maybe getting two keepers. You could get a championship keeper or not championship, sorry, second division keeper for around 0.01 or less at the moment, which is a third of the price of Romero. And I don't know quite how many games the other second division teams in Europe have, but definitely championship obviously have a lot of midweek. So yeah, I always like to tell people to go for second division players because I just feel like it's so undervalued, especially if you're using second division players in All-Star. The fact that they're second division literally makes no difference to their score. Like, they can be awful. It's like getting the best player in Asia. They could be awful, but they're going to score the same points as Mbappe. Like, and they're going to cost you way, way, way less. So yeah, I definitely, like you said, probably sell Diaz. I'd sell Romero, get cheaper options in. I'd maybe try and get another forward as well, because you don't really want to be playing two defenders, I don't think, in a team if you can avoid it. And then try and put together a second division sort of cheap-ish team that you can put an all-star, win a few prizes every week. And it just gives you those options. You can rotate some of your second division into your cap team, and some of your cap players that are doing so well, you can no longer play them in the cap. You could put them in your all-star, and you could just have a constant rotation of players. And if he does like the Premier League, following the Championship isn't too bad. Like, it's England. Is he English? I don't know, but
he's English.
He should be able to watch a few of the games if he wanted. Like, it's easy to see team news as well, which is always useful. Obviously, you boys follow your second division with Bristol City. It's a fun league. There's a lot of stuff going on in it.
It's easy to follow, and the thing is, if you follow Prem, then there's the possibility of players either getting promoted or getting bought into that league anyway. The transit, which is not always necessarily good, but from a following perspective, I'm with you boys. So my tactics would be exactly the same. The first thing I noticed when I looked at that was Romero, and I was like, right, that's quite a high price considering everything's dropping. The reason being, Sociedad had a good season there in Europe, so he's got midweek utility. And if you go through his scores, he's also a very high scorer, very consistent. So if he was a bigger gallery, and Rick's a great example, because Rick, you play decent, good players at limited standard. He's someone that I would have on your shortlist to get. Whereas someone looking to build their gallery, where I think, say he's got 8 players. I think he needs probably 15 to 20 players to be competing at 240 and to get those regularly dopamine hits that he's talking about. So he'd be my first sell. I would get in, again, what's he listed at? You can get around 50 quid for him, right? That's the first thing that I would do. And then I would get in, like you boys, I'd focus, because he's Prem interest or he wants leagues he can follow. I'd look earlier. You can get a Neto for about 12 quid. You can get Travers, who's just moved to the Championship, for about 15 to 20 quid. So you got that midweek utility as well. You could get Peacock Farrell for about 15 quid. He's just moved to Austria, Denmark. So straight away he could have 3 keepers for the price of 1, not even the price of 1. So 3 keepers cheaper than 1, all who play, which also includes midweek utility, which is the reason his keeper's so high. So for me, that's a no-brainer. And also if you're playing cap 240, you want to try and reduce those L15 scores, and Ramiro's on 57, which is way too high for a cap 240 keeper. So first thing I do would be get rid of him. Keep Smith Rowe because he's an Arsenal fan. He wants to have fun and watch players he loves. So keep him. Cucurella, I would get rid of him, to be honest. Diaz, I'd get rid of him. I know he's taken a hit on the loss, but 33 quid is still quite a lot what you can do with limited. Pavard I would keep because he's a top quality player. As Rick said, he scores well and he might even go to Man City. So then again, great player to hold. Barella is the one that stuck out to me. He's played a lot for him. He's still worth a considerable amount. So part of me goes, okay, we could reinvest in that quite easily. But an L15 of 44, if you are going to focus on cap 240 with a quality player like Barella, who has international and midweek utility, I think actually he's a little bit of a cap 240 cheat code potentially.
That's an awful score for him, isn't it? Like, yeah. I always consider Barella to be one of the sort of best sort of midfielders in Champion Europe, but that's awful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he plays all the time, and he's got that utility. So I would sell out pretty much a lot, but focusing on Prem and Championship again for that utility reason. Maybe the odd one in Scotland because they're cheap, but I would keep Barella. I'd also consider keeping Tomori if you're going to play a second team in All-Star, because odds are he's going to play 240 with his team and make his main 240 focus, and then with his spares chuck something in All-Star, and maybe Tomori could be his captain in that sense. But equally, 22 quid, you can probably do a bit with that. The only other thing that Reece touched on is obviously the as we spoke about earlier, the bonuses that you get through collections as well, the benefit. Obviously, none of these players link up. So something else he may want to consider is if he's targeting certain players, i.e. maybe start with a goalkeeper, right? So say you go for, and this is an example, you go for Neto, right? Because you can get him for 12 quid and he's a starter at Bournemouth. And you also go for Travers because you get a midweek utility for 15 quid. They both play for Bournemouth, even though they're Bournemouth cards, even though he's moved to the Championship. So straight away, if you get those two in, plus maybe a defender to stack with Neto like Senesi at 3 quid, you then are well on your way to your 2% bonus for playing. Plus, you've got a defensive stack and a midweek utility keeper for like not even 30 quid. And then you've got 20 quid to play with, and that's on the sale of your keeper again. So I actually think it's relatively easy to build up this gallery from 9 cards to say 20 and compete at cap 240. The key bit is, I guess, going forward, I don't know if you've always had a look at like specific players, but is then identifying like who fits within that cap 240. So if I share a couple I've had a look at earlier, can you see my screen at a minute, a little short list?
No. You see, no? We're on my screen.
Oh, excellent. I obviously said stop sharing something else. Let's go on.
Also, do you two support Bournemouth? Because I swear...
There it is. Don't know why it's delaying so much.
Alexa, turn off. Why is my Alexa talking?
Shut up, Alexa. So, Do I support Bournemouth? No. Bournemouth are just so well priced, like compared to everyone else.
No, they are. You're right. You're right.
Seem like value. The other team that seemed value for me, I'll put them on here, is Burnley, because I actually think Burnley will do better than other people may say. But anyway, I was going to run for a few players, get your thoughts, and if you thought they were good enough for 240, and then you boys chuck some at me. Trossard, would you chuck him in? He's an Arsenal fan. He's got international utility, 15 quid. He got the most, I think it was most or second most assists at Arsenal last season.
I think he's really good. Scored a couple yesterday, didn't he, overnight for Arsenal? I just think Arsenal is so competitive up the top now. They've got so many options. He's going to get rotated to hell, isn't he?
Yeah, he will. He will rotate.
It's just whether he can, with a small gallery, whether you can carry someone that is a rotation risk, like we've mentioned earlier. I really feel like you have to have nailed players, because as soon as you get like one DMP, that's just the end of your game week, isn't it?
That's true.
I wouldn't be touching Trossard with a barge pole.
Well, I do like Trossard. Like I do like him as a player. I think he's a good player, but
like him as a player, I don't want him on Sorare.
No.
2v1, you're out. Bren Johnson. This is why I like him. Cap at 40. Can pick it, but his price fluctuates between 6 and 9 quid, which for me, strikers are hard to find. Full stop in Sorare, but cap at 40, plays for Wales. Probably won't go to Euros because they worry won't. They're shite, but. For me, he's a decent player, and he also can peak. What do you think on Bren Johnson?
Yeah, I like him. Been on my shortlist for a while. He got a lot of hype from a lot of Sorare people last season, and again this preseason. I would like to own the card, but he does have to actually, pick it up. I do think he needs to, start justifying all this hype he's getting. But he's a very good price for the potential that we all apparently see in him.
There you go, John.
I agree. I think he's good. He did get benched a little bit, didn't he, at the end of the season, which was a bit weird. I wonder if he had a bit of a falling out with the manager, because obviously he's a Forest guy, isn't he, Brennan Johnson? His dad played for Forest. He's a Forest legend. And I don't know, maybe he had a bit of a falling out, but there was some very vague rumours with him leaving this summer. But I think he'll stay. I think he's very good price at what is that, £7 roughly.
It's cheap, isn't it? I think for that level of player.
They'll always have that Premier League selling point. You're not going to lose money. Like, you may go up and down a few quid here and there, but he plays in the Premier League, so he's always going to hold that value, you'd like to think.
Yeah, there you go. Bren stays then. Ben Chilwell was the other. He's probably the main one that stuck out to me because I rate him historically. He has been playing really well in pre-season. He's obviously been on fringes of England historically. His scores have not always been the best, but again, that's what I'm searching for, like some decent cap players to add into it. L15 of 38 will be Chelsea's first choice left back this season. I think Chelsea will be quite good this season. They're my sort of dark horses to push. They probably won't go anywhere near Man City, but push for sort of that second place. What do you reckon, Ben Chilwell? 10 quid.
I think he'll be the starter over Cucurella, but then there's always that risk, I guess. And is he quite injury prone? I don't think he always was injury prone, but he seems to have got injured a fair bit.
He has recently, yeah.
Yeah, I think once again, he could really pay off with being really good, but also Chelsea's a risky team to have players from when you've got a small gallery, just because of rotation, and they do sometimes play 3-5-2. Although obviously they've got a new manager now, so I don't know, but it's risky. Not sure. I think you can probably spend your money better elsewhere, I'd say.
Rick?
Yeah, too much risk attached for me for 9 quid. I think I could probably pick someone up who, has Europe as well.
Get Lindelof for 5 quid.
He probably does hold value as a Chelsea and England player quite well. Would be the one caveat of having him in your gallery, but he's definitely got an injury up him, isn't he? So I would probably err on the side of no if I was offered Ben Chilwell. But
goodbye, Ben. You're out the team. Josh Brownhill, his cap is high, 55. This is my only concern on him. So that kind of goes against what I was saying earlier. But at 3 quid, he's their main midfielder. He scores really bloody well. And when we talk about beefing out a team and potentially could use him in All-Star as well, I just think Josh Brownhill's going under the radar a little bit. I want to pick up a rare of his. What are your feelings on Josh Brownhill?
I think Burnley get pumped pretty much every week. I wouldn't want any part of them. I think they're going to get relegated, and I think all those scores are overinflated because they're in the Championship. He's a Bristol City legend, though. You all have your teams that you think aren't going to do well in the season, aren't you? Everyone goes, they'll get pumped every game this season, and I think it might be Luton, Burnley, and Everton. So those are the 3 that I wouldn't want. But everyone, and certain teams that go up do really well. There's always 1 or 2 each season. But last year, none of the promoted teams went down.
That's right, yeah.
There is a strong chance that I'm talking bollocks, and you are right. But on my instinct, if I was picking my relegation teams, it would be Sheffield United instead of Everton, but I just want to say Everton for the roles. I don't like the promoted teams this year, but I'm sure one of them will stay up, and Burnley have got a good manager, and they seem to be active in the transfer market. So if they do play well, Josh Brownhill did show that he has the ability to score well.
Can't he? And that's 3 quid for someone who can hit 100. That is appealing to me.
I have to echo Ricky, I'm afraid. There's a lot of agreement going on here, which I don't usually like to do. I do like Brownhill. I think he's a good player, but he's a very good Championship player and a not so good Premier League player. I don't think he's gonna. He scored a lot of goals last year for Burnley. Burnley scored a lot of goals. Burnley are not going to score a lot of goals in the Premier League this year. I don't think. I do rate Vincent Kompany. I think he's a great manager. But yeah, I'm not sure. He's a good price. 3 quid. You can't argue.
It's outrageous.
That is a good price. I'm not sure what's his AA game like in that little list you're on there, Jess.
He's His L15 is 55, and his AA is where is it? I'm having a look on my screen quickly just for speed. His AA is 15.9.
So yeah, not bad. Not great. I don't know. It's tough. I also don't think Burnley will do that well, but they probably will beat Everton home and away and finish above us. So there we go. We'll see.
There's been some big. Can I interrupt for some big news?
Yes, please.
Breaking news.
Sorare Sevens have made an announcement. Our Johnny Big Rockets has been replaced.
Oh, who we got?
A Moose 17, retired Twitch affiliate, competitive Pro Cubs player, Sorare enthusiast.
Oh my god, I love him already. What a guy!
He's a Moose.
5 days ago, just played his first 11v11 game in goal. Here for the ride.
And he scored Sheffield Wednesday. Top guy.
There you go.
They're going to take an absolute pumping this season in the Championship.
Don't say that. He's a new player.
We just got a new team member and you're sagging off his team already.
It's the truth, mate. They're dire.
Usually whatever Jesse says, the opposite happens. So actually, Sheffield Wednesday are going to win the league next year.
Yeah,
they've got absolutely no chance. Shocking team. Anyway, let's stop abusing our new teammate.
Welcome to the team,
back
mate.
To Sam G. So, Josh Brownhill, you guys are thinking no. I'm going to leave him on there for £3. I feel like it's too much value not to leave him there.
You're overriding us. Do you think you're Simon Cowell? You get the deciding vote.
All right, fine. I'm going to let him go.
For £3, for £3, you can leave him on there.
Yeah, leave him in. He's cheap.
There you go. I should be a salesman. Nathan Teller, he's too high. I don't know what he's doing there. Goodbye. Peacock Farrell, cheap, £15. Moved to Denmark. Will be a first choice keeper, although he's not starting the first game. What do we think on Peacock Farrell? He was on there again to help with the Burnley stat more than anything.
He's only just joined. He's only just joined them, right? So they're probably just bedding him in.
For me, it's a definite no. He doesn't correlate with anything else we're doing in this. He
doesn't like following random leagues, does he?
He doesn't match with anyone. He's not in the same leagues, not play, so you can't guarantee the same schedule with a small gallery. I want keepers that are probably playing twice in Europe and at the weekend.
He's a good buy for a normal sort of like a bigger gallery. I'd say at the moment. That's what I'd say. A good tip, but not for
He's a good buy from us, mate. So good buy.
Hey.
So next up, we've got the double stack of Neto and Senesi that I referenced earlier, or Senesi. Senesi at £3, or 273, 46 L15, and Neto 45, £12. I know I bang off him about Neto all the time. I think it was Rick that actually dragged me there last year. I think you picked one up before me, and he became my rare cap 240 keeper, my stalwart, and he's going to be the same again this season. What's your feelings on these two guys?
To the shock of everyone, I am finally going to agree with you and say I think Neto's a really good price. And Senesi, although he didn't show quite the form he had when he's in Holland, I think he's a really good option as well for a stack. I'd even go as far to maybe add in Lloyd Kelly as well, club captain.
He hasn't been playing though in pre-season. There's something up with him.
Maybe he's injured, but he's the club captain, so I can't imagine he's being kicked out. But he's £2. I think that's a really nice pairing as well. There's not much going forward that I really want to add into that Bournemouth stack, but yeah,
Utara. I quite like Utara.
Yeah, but are you paying for the under 23? And he didn't really put up any good scores last season. So those back three I would like, but definitely Senesi and Neto would interest me. Yeah, I'll give you those.
John?
I mean, are Bournemouth going to be that good next year? They've changed their manager. I know they had a good year last year, but they're owned by Michael B. Johnson now, obviously, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think that Neto in particular is good value. So I agree with you on that. Senesi is a bit near. Some games he didn't play last year. I don't know. It seems a bit random. I'd certainly rather put an Everton player in there than Senesi, like Tarkovsky maybe or something like that. But
Tark's got quite a high L15, so I'd actually put Tark. Well, I've got Tark right. Tark's I think 52 or 53, which is still workable with these guys. How much should we try and? Because I actually rate Tark as much shit as I give you. Well, I rate him enough to buy him.
Yeah, exactly.
You got a rare Tark, right?
No, I don't, mate. I don't.
John, look at that. See, 60 last 5, but 52. So it's quite high, isn't it, for the cap? But again, for just over a fiver, maybe it's worth it. I don't know.
He loves the clearance off the line, but no, I think there's a lot of good undervalued players for a lot of the lesser teams in the Premier League. You've obviously got your big name players, your big teams, whatever, but like it just proves that you can pick up good players for really good value. And if he wants to watch the Premier League, then the problem I find personally with owning Premier League players is that I'm so fucking supportive of Everton that I really don't like supporting for other Premier League players, even if they are good for Sorare purposes. Like I don't care. Like I don't want. So like even owning like Rodri, I won him as a prize. Like if he's playing Everton, I ain't starting him. He can piss off. So it's tough. Like it depends how big an Arsenal fan this guy is, I guess. Like I don't want to be supporting Bournemouth.
He said he's up for it. He said as long as it's not Tottenham. That was his word. So the point. This is obviously just a real scratch group of guys, right? But I guess the point in flashing is that and Travers, reason he's up there, as I said earlier, is he's at Bournemouth. So I'm thinking if you go for a Neto, Senesi, and as Rick said, maybe even a Kelly as well, so a defensive stack, and Travers in there as well, you get that XP bonus for collection wise to 2%. Plus, you've got midweek utility. I think he's a really good pickup because he's moved to the Championship, to Stoke. So my point being though, we were talking about selling Romero as being the first thing we do, getting you around 50 quid. You can get all of these players for 45 quid-ish. So you can get all these players in and change, which gives you a defensive stack, a midweek utility keeper, striker that's quite hard to get, and they all have that like fairly good on the sensible on the cap. What do you reckon?
I think the players might change. You might want different players or whatever, but I definitely think selling one or two of your big name players to buy sort of 4 to 10 limited other players is definitely the right thing to do.
Well, you can break it down pretty simply to risk, right? And like 20% of his portfolio is Barella and
Pavard.
Nearly 30% of it is Alex Romero. That's too much of a risk, especially when Verratti just suddenly goes to Saudi Arabia. Like things like that can currently happen. You need to you can't lose quarter of your portfolio to an injury or a transfer at this stage. So I would definitely be breaking up those now. I've thought about those two biggest pieces, and I don't want any rotation risks. So I get rid of Smith Rowe, Cucurella, Diaz.
He wants Smith Rowe though as an Arsenal fan, so that's probably one.
Get a different Arsenal player, But yeah, I would get a different
Arsenal
player.
Just having a look at the Arsenal squad actually, whilst we were talking.
Yeah, who
Ben
would
White,
you?
Ben White or something like that. But if I could just jump in with my team suggestions.
Yeah.
This goes against mine and Johnny's Premiership review a few weeks ago when we said West Ham were absolutely dog for Sorare. But they're going to be playing in Europe, right, this year? Mm-hmm. Small squads, so they won't have too much rotation. Their two goalies here are 0.005 and 0.
What's that in fiat?
127.
He deals in fiat.
I don't know, 10 quid, 15 quid, 25 quid for both. And they're going to play one in the Premier League and one in Europe. So then you've got one at the weekend and you've got one for the midweek, and they get a percent bonus with each other. Fabianski's really cheap. He's going to retire after the season, you'd expect, but that's a really dirt cheap price. And if you see through their team, these are some really, really low prices across like Zuma, Agard, Kufal, like 0, 0, 0. These is like a few quid for their starting players. Trevor Brookin probably be a bit more, but Paqueta, Souček, 0.0, like three odd quid. When you're going through this team, all right, Jared Bowen's a bit more. He's probably the standout, but Antonio, they're all really cheap, and you could be getting 2 games a week from some of them. That's still Premiership. That's the sort of thing I'd be targeting. And you could look at maybe Newcastle as well in the same vein. Right, their goalie's more expensive because Nick Pope is, should be ahead of Pickford in the England team. But even these, like Sven Botman is just over a tenner. Dan Burn is a few quid. Players in their first season up in the Champions League, they're going to run their starters, probably at the weekend and in the Champions League. So I'd probably be looking at teams like that. If you want Premiership, easy to follow, probably a lot easier to pick, like a Newcastle team. Harvey Barnes is less than a tenner. Players like that to flesh out. Still big names, still in the Premiership. And I wonder if you could even possibly pick up some Liverpool players. Obviously not the goalie or Trent or things like that, but maybe if you think Joe Gomez would get games, Curtis Jones, maybe I'd be looking at Premiership teams that are in Europe. And Liverpool have got the disadvantage of you probably don't know their team for Thursday nights, but whereas Newcastle and West Ham, you probably got a better chance of picking them. So that's where I'd be looking at.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, mate. I've been doing the
West
same.
Ham and Newcastle.
I thought Villa for the same reason, because obviously Villa had a good season. I don't know your opinions on Unai Emery. I think probably split, but I actually think he's going to have Yeah, I think he's good, and I think he's going to have quite a successful time. Emi Martinez has too much money, given what we've said, and his score's too high. There's actually a chance Olsen ends up playing in Europe, potentially, and he plays for Sweden, but I don't know. It's a risk, and again, I'd avoid. But I like their defence. Like, Pau Torres is a quality defender they've just signed. He's 10 quid. And then you don't know who's going to play out of Tyrone Mings and Diego Carlos, because he's come back from injury, isn't he? But he's a really good defender, and I probably would pick him for 3 quid. I'd probably stash a Diego Carlos, knowing he's in Europe and very good. I'll probably start with Mings and Torres, and then they got the option free, or he'll come back. And they've also then in midfield, Diaz is probably too good, but you've got options like Jacob Ramsey, McGinn, Tielemans, Buendia. There's plenty of options, and even up front, like Watkins is too much money at 35 quid, but Bailey, can he come good? They've just got in Diaby around 20 odd quid. Maybe they're not the best up top, but in particular defence, I think they're going to have a real strong time. And then probably the other team I would consider going for would be Leicester. So not Prem based, Championship based, but you get that midweek utility. I spoke to the Foxes guy the other day. He was talking about his Leicester team that he would stack, and the keeper bit less obvious, I think, because this newcomer Hermansson's likely to be a starter. So Travers could be his keeper. And then you've got the options at the back. I really rate Callum Doyle. I think, Rick, you might have known him.
I had his limited, but I basically sold all of my Coventry players.
So I listened to a pod this week, and they reckon that he's a future England defender. Some guys that specialise in the Championship. I haven't seen enough of him to comment personally, but as soon as they spoke about him, I was like, I need to buy him ASAP.
Harry Trades has been bigging him up. But yeah, I'm just looking to move out of limiteds. I'm trading out a lot of them. So, but if I had his rare, I would not be selling it.
Ricky Pereira is really good. But he's been injured. So if he plays, he's a really good pickup. I can't believe Fazer Sten, he's too high to pick up. Suter's a really good defender. He may not start though, which is why he's cheap at the minute. And then as you go into midfield, Hamza Chowdhury, we've seen at City, he's actually very good. He's underrated now. He's come back there. Harry Winks quality. For 12 quid, he's going to keep that team going this season at 44 cap. I think that's a really good pickup. Dewsbury Hall, potentially Championship player of the season this season. He's on my radar for a rare at 13, 14 quid. I think that's a good pickup for your 240. And it'll be fun to watch potentially the best player in the league. And then you've got Vardy up top. Iheanacho probably gets sold, but again, his cap's good. And Vardy at 37 cap and 7-8 quid. Yes, he'll retire at the end of the season probably. Maybe he'll get injured, but again, I think that's value. So Villa and Leicester are probably my two teams outside of that Bournemouth stack I spoke about earlier that I would focus on. John, any sort of stack you look at? Sorry, Rick, what were you going to say?
Do you remember when I bet you both 100 Football Index shares that Harry Winks would play for England at the Euros or the World Cup?
I do, mate. Yeah, if I can log into my football index, I'll send them across.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think COVID called off the tournament, didn't it? And Football Index went bust. So
it broke the matrix.
I guess the bet's void.
Turns out you're right there.
Yeah.
I did. Talking of Football Index, I did see Gibril Sal's joining. Who is he joining? Juventus or something?
Oh, I've missed that. Is he really?
Yeah. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it wasn't Juventus, Napoli. I don't know. But like, he was my biggest hold on Football Index back in the day. I remember making £100 profit on his shares, and I genuinely was so excited. I was, I'm going to buy a new house.
So, John, any stacks? I guess you're going to say Everton, which actually wouldn't.
I mean, I haven't planned a stack, but yeah, I mean, I do like all of your options there. Having the midweek Europa is here, so I guess the risk is rotation. You never quite know what's going to happen, but if they do, like what you said with the West Ham keepers, like they do get into a not a rotation. It's just the one keeper does all the Europe and one keeper does all the leagues, so that would be good. So you'd cover your bases there. You know, I will go through a few Everton players, if you like.
My surprise.
I mean, all jokes aside, there's some good value. Let me.
Why do you think I'm building an Everton stack?
I know, mate. You're beating me to it. Why can't I share my screen? Come on.
It's coming.
It's coming. Okay, so obviously keepers wise, you're not going to go for any of these keepers. Interesting, Begovic has left and is going to be a starter at QPR, so he's around sort of 13 to 15 quid at the moment, so that could also be another option as discussed earlier.
They're going to get pumped and relegated though. They'll be going down with Chef Wednesday.
Potentially, but he'll play 46 games, so he'll get you £15 worth, that's for sure. So defender-wise, we've talked about Tarkowski. You know, it's going to sound crazy, but Ashley Young, I think, is going to start for us.
Is he?
You can genuinely pick up his rare for like £12 at the moment. Like, he's ancient. He's 38 years old, granted. But he is far better than Mykolenko. And Mykolenko hasn't even come back from injury for pre-season yet. And Ashley Young's been playing every game, scored the other day. Like, he's far, far better than Mykolenko. So
that's outrageous, isn't it? Like the depth of Everton for him to be your starter.
Yep, that's the state of our team. Okay, so you got players like Patson, I think, will have a good season. He sort of had a few injuries last year, and obviously Everton have been awful for 2 years now, if not about 30. He should do well. Coleman's still injured. You can pick him up for about £3 at the moment, a bit less. Other players I looked at earlier, you've got Decore and there's a trio in midfield, I think, are really good value. Decore, Idrissa Gana Gueye, and James Garner. I think out of those three, it's more likely that Decore is the absolute nailed-on starter. Idrissa Gueye will probably start as well. I mean, it's difficult to pick who's going to start, to be honest, but Decore for like £2, £2.50, whatever, is really good value because he gets forward a lot. Like his last 40 there is really low because he wasn't playing under the previous regime and was being played out of position. And under the last like third of the season, they played him in the right position. And I think he got a goal and assist of 7 of our last 9 goals of the season. He's good value. You got Dele Alli, obviously. What a man. Get him in.
Where is Dele Alli? I know, obviously, I saw what's going on with him. Is he actually coming back to Everton?
Yeah, he's back at Everton. He's been in pre-season, but he's still rehabbing. He had an operation over the summer, so he's still rehabbing from his operation. And then value-wise, up top, I think Iwobi's probably the best value player there. Calvert-Lewin, I really rate, but he's constantly injured. McNeil is priced accordingly. He's obviously really good, but
cap's too high, isn't it?
Yeah, Damari Gray's getting linked with a move to Palace and Saudi Arabia. And then Danjuma, I really like the look of him coming in.
He's good.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how he gets on. But yeah, I obviously love Everton, but there's some good value players across the board. You all mentioned players from West Ham. I think Villa will do well this season. Again, I think Emery's a really good manager. They've signed Diaby. They've signed, some really good players. So, yeah, I'd definitely go for the second to third tier Premier League teams rather than the top tier ones.
And I'd just make one
yeah.
more point when I was looking at this is the things we've just described about picking like European teams in England. You could do the same in any of the other big leagues that have teams in Europe, you know, rinse and repeat the same tactics. For example, if he's going to keep, so if I was getting rid of, you know, everyone apart from keeping Tomori maybe in Pavard, you could do the same thing we've done in England and get 4 or 5 more players, you know, that are going to be Champions League from the big leagues or Europa or conference, and have like a conference stacks of teams from the same league. So their league matches still match up. And then they've got the European midweeks as well. And then do that for a Premiership set of teams as well. So that you've got, you know, I just think, yeah, expand a bit and make sure you're covering as many of these European game weeks, midweek and weekend as possible. And plan ahead so you've constantly got a good chance of getting 240 at least once a week.
Love it. So to summarise then, before we finish off, we're thinking sell those assets that are taking up too much sort of percentage risk on the gallery. Start with Ramiro, restructure your goalkeeping department and potentially defensive stack with that. Stack your teams focusing on utility. Consider either Champions League, Europa League teams, or potentially the Championship. We've picked out stacks from Everton, West Ham, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, to name a few. Potentially try and make the most of that collection bonus, because again, you have to find an edge on those bigger galleries. Focus on Cap 240, throw in your additional team into All-Star potentially, or if they're lower, then go for the Cap 220. And again, with the focus on having fun, pick those players you actually enjoy watching and can follow, because otherwise you'll be stuck in a position with, I say an illiquid asset. The limiteds are liquid, pretty liquid, but they seem to drop like a stone and end up being easy to lose cash on. And when you've got a small gallery, you don't want to have to keep shifting in and out and losing even a quid or two at a time, because that's potentially a player. So yeah, I think that's. Have I missed anything else out there, boys? Or that's about it, isn't it?
Sounds good to me.
Right. Cool. Well, hopefully that has helped with your thinking. At least in terms of what you may do next, and potential moves going forwards. And if anyone else is in a similar position, happy to kind of do a bit of a review or do sort of same sort of thing our end. Rick, before we finish, anything to plug, or John?
Yeah, I've got
sort of giveaway.
I got a giveaway. I said I'd give away my rewards if I won one, tier 5 rewards, which I did. I got this K-League player who actually scores pretty well. So I've stuck the tweet in the picker. Must follow Sorare Mamba and Sorare Thursday Club. I can't put, you need to have retweeted as well. So I will draw 2 or 3 here. And if the first person didn't follow all the instructions, I'll give it to the second person. But here you all are loaded up. There's 205 entries, meet the criteria.
Good little comp.
Yeah.
All right. Let's begin the draw. Good luck, everyone. Ooh, rejected. Not following the Sorare Mamba. Rejected. Not following the Sorare Mamba.
Guys.
Means Alex Andre Mori is the winner.
Get in.
Congratulations. Unlucky for you two.
Got to follow those rules. The game rules and follow, eh?
Got to follow those rules, yeah. Not following me, of all people. So, yeah, congratulations, you've won. That was all I had to do. That was my admin. I've got the Beat the Boys prizes. I'll got a day off tomorrow, so I'll do the updates and send the prizes tomorrow. I said I'd do it today, but things got away from me. And, yeah, that's all I've got to plug. We got Sorare Sevens this weekend, so let's plug that.
Sorare Sevens this weekend. Yeah. Get involved. I think there might even still be some spaces if anyone wants to do a last minute entry. I think it's gonna be a really good one. And Quinny's obviously up there doing a podcast as well, isn't he? Haber's doing a crossbar challenge. We'll be up there drinking too much beer. I think it'll be a great weekend. Get stuck in.
Look forward to it.
And that's it, really. That's us. Next weekend, or next Friday. I only joined me the other day. Next Friday is the start of the championship. You know, first game of the season.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah,
Belgium this weekend, then the championship next weekend, and then the Premier League the weekend after, and all the other leagues.
It's crept up fast. So maybe we'll do a little piece on the championship before it kicks in.
Let's do it.
We'll see. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. We will see you again next week, if not at Sorare Sevens. Take care.
Woo. Like and subscribe. Viva la Thursday Club.
Up the Toffees.
Viva the Thursday Club. Up the Thursday Club.